All right.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Devonte Williams has had a pretty good start to the season. What do you attribute some of that to?
I mean, he's a good player. I think he's probably, you see with some of the devastating knee injuries around the league, it was one of the things that we discussed about when we signed him was sometimes 2 years for a young guy is kind of the marker for a running back. I think it was kind of a similar timeline, I think, for Saquon Barkley. I don't know as much about his situation, but we anticipated that he would be probably full strength and full speed for the first time, and he has been. So, we try to do things that he likes and fits his skill set, but ultimately it's just him being a good player.
Did you notice that in training camp, or did it, once the season started, you can kind of see that the things you're talking about, the speed and the physicality?
We've been excited about him since he got here. Just in the off season, more so just about how he learns and how he works, and some of the things you see him doing when you're running around without pads on. But then when the pads came on, we saw what we thought we were going to see: a guy that has good speed, plays with good pad level, runs physical and hard and violent. That's what we wanted.
Klayton Adams with ESPN. What was yesterday's practice like? Because you're down 2 more offensive linemen. You didn't have Turpin out there. I mean, how'd you make do with some of the stuff?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really think about it. It's just kind of, that's the standard operating procedure, I think, in the NFL, is that somebody else is going to be up and they got to carry the flag and they've got to get ready to play and they've got to play well. So, I think there was a couple of plays early where we're like, why did that? We've run that a million times. How did we screw that up? Oh, okay, there's a new guy in there or whatever. So, in general, not a whole bunch different, but that's the overarching theme from whether you're 100% healthy or not is everybody better be ready to play, because if you get a jersey on game day, there's a chance you're going in. You're expected to play well.
And then do you expect either of the Tylers to be out there today?
I have no idea. Yeah.
And then one more on Jake Ferguson. Obviously got a number of catches, but his yards per catch is down. Does that matter as much, or do you want to see him maybe getting?
I think I couldn't tell you like right off the top of my head how many times he's been like the primary read on a downfield play, but I will say, especially with tight ends, some of it just has to do with the style of coverage that you're seeing, and potentially who they're trying to take away. If there's a zone team that's a lot of space over the middle, sometimes you're going to see those guys making catches there. Or if they're going to get some inside leverage man, sometimes you can get them on some of the deeper 7 routes and things. I just don't think that has probably opportunity hasn't presented itself the same way that it will later in the season. But I'm happy that he's getting to touch the ball a lot, and I know that he probably is as well.
John Machota with The Athletic. We asked Brian a lot about Jaden Blue and when he's going to be active and things like that. He said he's very close and that he's been practicing really, really well. So what have you seen from Jaden Blue?
Yeah, I would echo Coach's sentiments on that. In fact, I've had that conversation with him in the past. Man, you're doing really well. It's going to be really more about opportunity here than it is. You're not being punished or anything like that. And so he has continued to keep his head down and work hard. And at some point here, he'll get out there, and I expect him to play well and do special things when he does.
And then Sunday night, obviously a big game for George Pickens. Was there any particular play in that game that stood out to you that he made? Obviously, that he made quite a few, but if there was any one that, I don't know if you just expect him to make all those plays, or if anything that stood out from any one of them.
There was a 4th and 6 late that he and Dak connected on the in cut that was pretty much, we're making this play or we're losing the game. And that was, to me, was impressive by both of those guys. The pocket movement by Dak, and then just the ability to turn his hands over by GP and make that play going to the ground. I thought that was a pretty big-time play.
Tommy Arsh, DallasCowboys.com. Nate Thomas had to step in for some time last Sunday. Where have you guys seen him grow from the start of training camp and the offseason program before that to now? Because you kept hearing his name at camp. It was like, man, where's he come from? But it seems like he's really progressing well.
He is, yeah. He did a pretty good job when he got in there. He's been able to take some good quality reps this week as well. But one of the things that's unique about Nate, for the situation that he's in is, Nate basically took every single rep at tackle during training camp with the starters. So I felt like he had a ton of time to grow, and he got some good reps in the preseason games. So when he got in there and played well and was able to be pretty firm in pass protection and didn't really blink, I wasn't surprised by that. That's what you're hoping to see, especially for a guy that got in the game. We had the plan last week of Nate's going in Series X, and he's going to play. I don't forget exactly when it was, and the whole idea with that was like, this guy's going to play at some point. Let's not, whenever he ends up making his first start, let's not make that the first time he's been in a game for meaningful minutes. So he went in for a series in the first half last game, and then it came to fruition later in the game. He had to go in and he had to play when it was time to try to win the game. So I felt like that plan worked out well for us.
Joe White, Dallas Morning News. TJ Bass and Brock Hoffman are really close. They're obviously very different too in their personalities. One's very loud.
Yeah.
One's very introverted and quiet. One, what do you make of just kind of their friendship dynamic? And two, how much does that help for two guys that were backups and are called upon to start together when they are called upon?
Yeah, I think it's helpful for sure when there's chemistry with guys. I think when you're looking at that group in general, and not speaking so much on our group, is just the offensive line group in general, is you really want, if you got 13 guys in that room, like they all need to have some pretty good chemistry. And when you can create that, then I think you can live through situations where you've got 2 or 3 guys down and somebody's getting called up, because the guys that are still in there, the kind of survivors that are still playing in the game know, like, you know what, hey, I got no issues here, Brock's going to be fine, or I got no issues here because TJ's going to be fine. So that's really what you're trying to create. Specifically with those 2 guys, yeah, I mean, I think that when you get to the point where you're operating at, like an elite level on the offensive line, which we're not, but like those guys almost don't have to communicate because they just know, like, this happens and this is how we react.
How quickly did you notice that dynamic between those two?
I noticed it pretty quickly in the offseason just because they're always walking around the building, joking around, doing stuff together. Pretty cool guys.
Garrett Podell, CBS Sports. Klayton, Dak's obviously playing incredibly high-level football. But you come from offensive line background. You and Coach Schottenheimer said you want to run the ball. How do you feel about putting as much on Dak's plate as you are? He leads the league in pass attempts through 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, he's an outstanding player and he gives us a chance to win every game. But I think when you're evaluating where we're at right now in regards to pass attempts, it's really just been about what do you have to do to try to win the game. I don't think that we've gone into any games and said, hey, we plan on throwing it X amount of times. He's doing a really good job of calling the plays that we need to try to win. We've also been in 2 overtime games, and one of them went all the way through the overtime period. So we've had kind of a lot of plays, I think, compared to the rest of the league because of that. And, when you're in one of those barn burners like we were on Sunday, you got to do what you got to do to try to win the game. And so I think that's probably where some of those numbers come from. Having said that, I think he's done an outstanding job of, like, making the most of those opportunities.
And how comfortable are you putting the game on his shoulders in that way? It's your first year working with him.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody else I'd rather have.
Nick Harris for Star Telegram. On the topic of TJ Bass, how much can you appreciate his performance against that Packers front on Sunday night?
Yeah, I thought TJ did a lot of nice things. When you put a young guy in the game, which I know that TJ's played before, but one of the things that you're looking for is that they don't freak out. It's not too big for them, or they don't make a mistake, and then all of a sudden there's 5 or 6 plays after that linger. TJ never does any of that stuff. TJ will probably laugh if he hears this, but like TJ's like, he's right here, man. He's consistent and doesn't really freak out about anything. And some people would say that, oh, he's just not an emotional guy or whatever. But I think that he just knows what he wants and controls his emotions, manages his emotions well, and that's what makes him a pretty good player.
And then any across-the-hall meeting with Aaron Whitecotton this week, knowing his background with the Jets defensive front?
Yeah, no, we've had some discussions for sure, just about personnel and the way the guys operate and things like that.
Skyler Dixon with the AP. Other than the promotion, what appealed to you about joining Schotty here?
one of the things that I knew about him going into this was that, I mean, this guy's been calling plays in the NFL for a long time. I think he started calling plays in the NFL when he was in maybe his late 20s. Don't quote me on that. That's what I thought was the case. But I wanted to watch him operate and learn from him about calling plays in the NFL, and it's been a serious education because he's very good at it, and he works really hard at it. But that was really kind of one of the main things, is coming from the background that I come from. It's sometimes hard to operate within the head of the quarterback or the play caller, and I wanted to learn more about that.
Babe
Laufenberg, 105.3 The Fan, Cowboys Radio. It's a TJ Bass day, but he pretty much took all his work, off-season training camp, through the first part of this year at left guard. Then he goes and he starts at right guard. What are the nuances there, other than hand in the ground, that you make an adjustment to in terms of that? And you're a center, so you never had to worry about it, right?
I got my first start in college down in Fort Worth at left guard. 2003. I did not play very well, but it's a good question. I think a little bit is case by case. There are some guys who really struggle when you move them from one side to the other. I have always attributed it to being like a right-footed or a left-footed person. I'm not sure that that's always the case either. But you do everything you can to try to train guys to play really comfortable on both sides. And there are just some guys that really struggle with that transition. Having said that, some of the best sixth guys and seventh guys in this league are the guys that can do it and have no issue going back and forth. TJ just doesn't really have an issue going back and forth. Kelvin Beacham's a guy that I worked with in Arizona, never had an issue going back and forth, even in the same game if he had to. So I don't know like the full answer to why some guys struggle with it and some guys don't. We try to play with a relatively even stagger with our feet, and I think that does help guys transition from one side to the other, where when guys play with really big, massive staggers, sometimes it's really difficult for them to go over to the other side. I think there's a lot of things that go into it.
Anything to a dominant hand? You talk about the foot, you're dominant on one side.
I think it has more to do with the feet. I really do, because we always talk about just being a blocking and tackling game, but every block is won or it's lost with your feet. You can't dominate a block without your hands inside, but every block is won or lost with your feet. So if you can't correct errors with your feet, you're going to have a major issue.
Kyle Youmans, Cowboys TV. With your offensive line background, was there ever a point where you had the game plan without 3 or 4 of your starters up front going into a week, whether it was in the NFL or an earlier year?
Yeah. I think maybe last year, it might have been the first Rams game early in the season. Yeah, it was like we had 2 guys out already and lost another guy on Thursday, and then Friday lost one of the backups who was gonna start, and it was. Like I said, it's welcome to life in the NFL. It's just the way that it is, and you don't different than college football where you've got like, all right, well, the freshman's going to play. Let's see what he's got. You don't really your pockets aren't as deep that way because you essentially are restricted to whatever your roster and your P squad is. But like I said last week, man, the guys that it's our job to make sure that they know what to do. It's their job also to make sure that they know what to do, and then. After that, we got to fill them with confidence, and they got to know that we believe in them and that we fully expect them to go out and play really well because we believe that they're capable of doing it.
How does it change the way that you look at blocking schemes and things not up front without getting too far into it, but how does it change the way that you look at it from a coaching standpoint?
I think it's much more on a micro scale than a macro scale. I firmly believe that you kind of decide how you're going to attack an opponent based on the style of front that you're seeing, and then the intricacies of how you're going to block those things have more to do with your players. So if that makes sense. So, like usually very minor things of this guy's a better puller than he is a zone combo guy, for example. I'm making it up, but.
And we'll finish up with Christy.
Christy Scales, 105.3 The Fan, Cowboys Radio. The Jets, Quinnen Williams. Where is he rated among some of these really fine, stout linemen you go against? And I know he gets a lot of attention for the sacks and collapse in the pocket, but he's nearly double digit in run stuffs already this year. So.
Yeah, he's outstanding. And kind of like last week when we were talking about the Packers pass rush, he's an elite player, and we see other guys that are elite players because it's the highest level of football in the world. So you got to prepare for him on all 3 downs. That's not always something that's super common with interior guys. He's a really good pass rusher on 3rd down. He'll go through you, he can go around you, and he plays really low. He's really compact with his upper body in the run game, which is one of the things that makes it hard to block him. So he's outstanding. It'll be a really good challenge for our guys. I'm looking forward to it.